the House, but Republicans picked up seats, cutting into the Democrats' majority. Pelosi says her focus is to pursue even the slimmest path to
Anyone can publish on the internet, but not everyone is publishing material suited for online reading. According to the Yahoo Style Guide, it cautions that internet content has a few seconds, 3 or less, to encourage people to read more, to take action, or navigate to another one of your pages. So make it easy for readers to pick and choose. Isn't that the way you poke around online? Use short words, short sentences, short paragraphs, bulleted lists, and short pages. Front load what you write, putting the most important information at the beginning of headlines and paragraphs and sentences. Same goes for your keywords, what someone would likely type into the search box on Yahoo or Google. For more tips on communicating better online or in a job interview or everyday life, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From 1941, when an amoeba became the first single-celled organism to play professional baseball, to 1794, when Thomas Jefferson more than likely did something historically significant. The Onion looks back at This Week in History. On May 25, 1925, Tennessee teacher John T. Scopes was formally indicted for teaching the theory of evolution in a public school after a monkey called to the stand failed to turn into a human.
Sir, you have been on the witness stand for a full 3 hours now, and in this time we haven't seen you lose any of your hair or shed your tail. Can you at least articulate a single justifiable reason why Mr. Darwin's theory should even be mentioned in our nation's classrooms?
And on May 27, 1995, actor Christopher Reeve came in last place in a horseback riding event.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You're invited to join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And nobody.
So, nobody, welcome back to the program. The last time you were on was before the election. It is now post the election. We did a somewhat of an election recap last night, talking about some of the most important things that I thought were worth talking about, especially the drug decriminalization measure, which passed in Oregon, which I would say with flying colors, with nearly 60%.
Nice.
People voting in favor of that. So, yeah, that's some pretty good news. Also,
that is huge.
Yep. A bunch of liberty-minded activists here in New Hampshire got elected, many of whom, won re-election. Good friends of the show like Mark Warden, longtime sponsor here on Free Talk Live. He's now back as a state rep, and also Mike Sylvia, longtime Free Talk Live listener. And both of those guys are A-plus rated New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, not just A-plus rated, but winners of the Liberty Legislator of the Year award. Those guys, Mike Sylvia was reelected as well last night. So,
do we know, did our representation increase or decrease this time around? Or
you mean as far as liberty-minded folks?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's a good question, but it looked like it was pretty positive at a glance. There's 400 races, right? I don't know how many of those races included free staters / libertarians that were running as Republicans or Democrats, but certainly as I scrolled through the list, I recognized some names that had been in office before, so many of whom had been already as state reps, won re-election. And I don't know how many are brand new. There used to be this group, one of the hate groups here in New Hampshire. They were called Granite State Progress, and they used to do us a real solid.
They were really useful because they had the list of who everybody was, and sometimes I wouldn't even know that somebody was related to us, but they did. They would,
Yeah, they really put in the effort to make these lists up until 2016, and then 2018 they disappeared. So I don't think that they for whatever reason, they just stopped doing it, or maybe
they figured out that they were more useful than destructive to us.
Yeah.
Maybe we could hire them to come back and do that. I don't know what it.
Because that's the nice thing about being in this movement of this migration of liberty-minded people who have been coming here to New Hampshire for more than a decade and a half at this point. The migration started in 2003 when the Free State Project chose New Hampshire in a popular vote of its members, and so since then we've had thousands of people move here. You and I don't know them all. I mean, we know some of them, maybe a few hundred of them, but I don't know probably the majority of them.
And even that, you can't really know 500 people.
No.
You
can know of
the
them.
Magic number is like 150. I think that they're
those are the ones you can have some relationship
keep track
with.
of. You know.
But you could have heard some names, and a lot of them, I don't know. So it's a good question.
Yeah, I would like to know, but maybe we'll find out. It'd be interesting if we to find a way to poll that.
Well, one thing's for sure, we can know after the first year is done, because the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance does a report card where they actually give a rating to all of the state reps. So you can presume if they're getting an A on that report card, they're probably one of the good guys, even whether or not they moved here for the Free State Project or not.
They don't even have to know who we are. Right. If they vote right, they're
a friend.
They're our friend.
Yeah, exactly. So that was some of what we discussed here on the show last night. Also 4 states have added to legalization. They've legalized cannabis. D.C. did a mushroom decriminalization. Oregon also did a therapeutic mushroom legalization.
Nice.
So it's
funny that D.C. keeps legalizing things that the obviously the powers that be don't want done,
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah.
They did marijuana a few years ago. And so that's just a recap of last night. I did save something we didn't have time to get to last night, story about Joe Jorgensen being the second best vote getter in Libertarian Party history. So Reason.com has that piece. I figured I'd save that for you and I here tonight. But before we get into that, were there any things that, from the election that you thought you wanted to highlight?
Well, I mean, I guess my main question is, which of the twin monsters won? Are they still both claiming
victory?
Uncertain.
Yeah, it's still uncertain.
They seemed to be both claiming victory last I heard.
So there was actually a story that I saw in the news today about the Associated Press and Fox News counting Arizona in favor of Biden, but they say that the count has gone on. It's still only 89% finished there in Arizona. And basically the suggestion is that maybe Trump could catch up there. They're getting criticism for calling it what some people are saying too early. Basically, at this point, Trump has to win all of the disputed states in order to become president again, and Biden really only has to win one of them. So the odds, unless Arizona flips to Trump after the fact. So presuming Arizona goes for Biden, which is
considering Arizona to be undisputed.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is what the AP...
its undisputed status is somewhat disputed.
at this point. Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. So, but if Trump's going to have to win them all, essentially, and that's a pretty tough thing to call at this point.
Well, they say you can't do that.
All of the disputed states.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
He could. All of the ones that are disputed.
Oh, okay, because they used to say you couldn't win them all.
No, he has not. He's definitely not won all of the states. But there's like 4 states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada, that the Associated Press considers to be disputed, that Trump had a lead in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. The lead in North Carolina and Georgia is pretty close. Right now, Georgia is, it is a... pencil thin lead there, 49.4% for Trump and 49.3% for Biden, which means that Joe Jorgensen is the spoiler when it comes to the state of Georgia.
Well, I don't know that that's a fair statement, because frankly, if it wasn't for Joe Jorgensen, I would not have cast my vote for either of the monsters.
That's a good point.
And I think many of us are that way. Joe Jorgensen made the vote made the difference between my casting a vote and my not casting a vote.
Well, the nice thing about the state of Nevada is it's a ballot line where you can put in, it's actually on the ballot, none of the above basically or none of these candidates is actually a choice.
Wow.
When it comes to Nevada. And I will pull up the full Nevada results for you to give you some idea. Actually, I think none of these candidates actually is, if I recall correctly, did about as well as Joe Jorgensen did in Nevada.
Wow.
So yeah, so you actually do have some idea of how many people in Nevada would have chosen nobody, given the opportunity.
Yeah. Which nobody was kind of running a low-key campaign, in that, you know, I welcome write-in votes from any election, any place, any time, and I guarantee that if I get the nod, nobody will do the job.
So the results in Nevada right now: Joe Biden with 49.4%, Donald Trump with 48.5%. Joe Jorgensen with 1%. So again, if you add 1%, presuming they would all have voted for Trump, which they wouldn't have. They would have done different things.
Yeah.
But that is the difference. It's a 0.9% difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Jorgensen with 11,647 votes. Now, there's only 76% reporting so far in Nevada. So it's 3 days later almost at this point, or 2 full days later at this point, and they still haven't even counted up 80% of the votes in Nevada.
My impression is that both sides are working unusually hard to rig this election, and you know, all elections are rigged, I think, but this one they're really going the extra mile, and so we should really appreciate all the hard work that's gone into stealing this election from each other.
So Joe Jorgensen, with again not all the votes counted, at 1%. None of these candidates with 0.9%. So none of these candidates did almost as well as the Libertarian candidate Joe Jorgensen in Nevada. And so, yeah, we don't know who the winner is of this thing yet. Nobody. And no one's really sure as far as when we're going to know.
You see, I want a candidate that's called I Do Not Consent.
That's a good one. 855-450-FREE. We'll talk more about it. You can share your thoughts with whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live.
Maxwell, he was a runaway to rescue, great disposition. About 9 years ago, he was scratching a lot, and he started losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to the chicken. Another vet said, it's the grain. Third vet, she says it's the weather, something in the air. And then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. I had been listening to these Dynavite ads, hearing about different stories of different people, and it just clicked. I got my first 90-day supply, and it took a grand total of 2 weeks. And the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Dynavite is nutrition.
And Maxwell loves it. Now he's close to 10. And the Dynavite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
Dynavite for life. You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
And he's a spectacular dog.
DINOVITE.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org. News from news.bitcoin.com. Bitcoin tops 13,000 and breaks its own record for consecutive days above 10,000. Satoshi Nakamoto, if alive, enters the top 200 world's wealthiest people. DC International Monetary Fund Manager warns of major financial reset imminent. PayPal begins selling and accepting Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes mainstream. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
This is what petty bureaucrats do. They protect their turf. And if you can tell me the operable difference between governments, city, state, federal, whatever they might be, and the most successful gang in a given area, I'd love to hear the difference. I just don't know what the difference is. Yes, government has a funny way of appointing its dons.
Elections.
But that's really it. That's all I can come up with. It's a gang that's figured out, hey, if we let people participate, if they have a vote, that is statistically an insignificant fact that they have a vote, but we let them have one, then they'll feel like they're part of us, and then they can do whatever they want. They cannot pave a road for 43 years and then have everybody claim that without the government we wouldn't be able to pave roads.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live, you dial toll-free and bring up anything you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Also, you can call us through our Matrix chat server. How do you do that? Well, there's a few steps involved. So go to chat.lrn.fm and you can learn how to join the server there and make a phone call to us through that method, and you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. It's Ian and Nobody with you tonight. Also want to make sure you check out Bitcoin.com. Cryptocurrency is definitely not going away. Bitcoin right now, as we are speaking to you, it's flirting with $16,000, not quite, $15,000, almost $15,600. It peaked up at about $15,780 today.
Nice.
It's gone up over $1,000, like $1,200, $1,300 in just the last 24 hours. So Bitcoin is shooting up. It's on a rise. That's the time when people start paying attention. And had you purchased Bitcoin a year ago, you'd be up 100%.
Nice.
In the year, as of earlier this year. So it's been a very good year here, thanks to you, thanks to people actually caring about good money, getting it out there, getting the word out about Bitcoin. But if you haven't taken the time to actually learn about it, go to Bitcoin.com, hit the Getting Started or Get Started button, and take a moment to actually go through some of the introductory information there so you can learn the basics about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and what it is that makes cryptocurrency special. So take the time. Take 10 minutes of your life and just go learn the basics about it.
Yep.
There's no better time than now.
It's worth knowing.
Unless you're driving, in which case, wait till you get home.
Yes.
And,
yes.
and
or pull off to the side of the road.
Take 10 minutes to yourself and do that. Bitcoin.com. As we continue, we're kind of doing some more election recaps. Since you weren't here last night, Nobody, was kind of asking you what you thought was interesting. And you actually asked about the presidential election, which I consider to be one of the least interesting things in the election. But people do pay a lot of attention to it.
It's interesting to me in that it is the presidential election and the attempts, I believe, by both sides to rig the presidential election that are most likely to lead to large-scale withdrawal of consent from this system. I mean, I certainly do not consent to being ruled by either Donald Trump, who's a monster, or Biden, who's also a monster.
I don't consent to be ruled by anybody. I don't even want Jo Jorgensen to tell me what to do, but I suggest she wouldn't try.
Well, that's the thing, is Jo Jorgensen is more likely to stay the hell off my lawn.
Right.
So I like her for that.
Yeah.
But yes, if she was trying to instruct me on how I should live my life, I would be just as disinterested in hearing that from her as I would from anybody else.
And right now, Jo Jorgensen, the Libertarian presidential candidate is currently, she has a larger percentage of the vote that is than the difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden right now in the battleground state of Pennsylvania, where there are still not even quite 90% of the ballots that have been counted at this point. And so it's a close race. There's 20 electoral votes that are up for grabs in the state of Pennsylvania. And Donald Trump at 49.9%, Joe Biden at 48.9%, and Jo Jorgensen at 1.1%. So we'll get into a little bit more about Jo Jorgensen and her results. Where was she doing the best? Do you want to take a guess? Which state was the best for Jo Jorgensen? Presuming you don't already know.
I do not know.
You want to take a crack at it?
Nope. I have no idea.
All right, we'll get into that. But first, Bad Slave is on the line here, calling from New Hampshire. Bad Slave, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Nobody.
Thank you.
Hey there.
Ian and Nobody.
What's on your mind tonight?
I just found something out that I don't know if you guys know. Remember when Sununu first implemented all these crazy lockdown crapola?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was on the air.
There you go. One of the things that was a actually positive freedom thing that Sununu did was that he allowed people that were delivering food to deliver, beer and wine, I guess.
Yes, that's true. And that's not, you're not saying a whole lot there, because there wasn't much that he did that was positive. But in the midst of the lockdown, in the midst of the ridiculous crackdown on restaurants, prohibiting them from serving indoors, doing anything besides takeout, he did, in his graciousness, allow them to deliver closed containers of alcohol.
Well, yeah, and I think that if he's any kind of a freedom guy,
he's not.
He takes that and he runs with it and leaves it be.
He should leave it be. I agree with you there. That'd be nice. But I'd rather have the rest of the free. Like if I could trade back the ability to get alcohol delivered to my home and get all the other freedoms back, I'd trade it back in a heartbeat.
Well, yeah, but he's not giving those up.
No, not yet. He's going to have to be forced to, and I hope that the new Republican legislature that took office or is taking office as a result of the votes this week here, because it was a Democrat-controlled House and Senate, and now it's supposedly going to the Republicans. Hopefully they will give him a spanking, because I know some of the Liberty reps are going to be apparently putting forth some bill that will hopefully be trying to take some power away from this monster, but I don't know if the other Republicans are going to side with Sununu or how this is going to work out. So it's going to be an interesting session coming up in 2021.
Did they actually come up with the final count for the amount of reps we got now?
I saw. I don't know if this is official or whatever. Somebody told me, who pays attention to these matters, that there may be as many as 214 Republican reps taking office and 14 senators. So the Republicans should now have control of both the state house and the state senate, as well as Sununu.
But yet, Biden won at the presidential level, as I understand it.
That is correct. Sorry, Bad Slave? Huh?
Sounds like he was asking about the executive council.
Yeah, we're losing some of your packets there, Bad Slave. The executive council also supposedly went to the Republicans.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a so-called Republican in office, but he's not a liberty guy.
Well, he's good on guns. And supposedly he's against the income tax.
Yeah, I think he vetoed the income tax one.
So I mean, he's not as terrible as he could be, but he certainly has not handled this COVID situation very well at all. Thank you, Bad Slave. It's his fault. He is the reason why New Hampshire is no more than mid-pack when it comes to the rankings of COVID crackdowns. Mm-hmm. New Hampshire was like at number 26. South Dakota was by far the number one most free state as far as COVID crackdowns are concerned. New Hampshire is almost worth not mentioning at mid-pack at 26.
Yeah, that's bloody unfortunate.
Yeah.
Of course, South Dakota's governor, as I understand it, is a inveterate drug warrior, though.
She probably is.
So
Well, that said, South Dakota was one of the states that voted to legalize marijuana.
Nice.
So your thoughts are welcome here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And maybe with the Republicans in charge, I'm being optimistic here, in New Hampshire, we'll see some sort of marijuana decrim rather than a legalized tax and regulate scheme coming soon. We'll see.
Do you want more businesses accepting Bitcoin Cash and Dash? Now with AnyPay, you earn passive income for every purchase at those businesses. Finally, a financial incentive to spread Bitcoin Cash and Dash. You made it happen, so you get the rewards. Download the AnyPay Cash Register app and add your cryptocurrency wallet addresses. Then install it at a real-life business and tell us what you did at anypayinc.com. anypayinc.com.
Pork chop, his coat is very thick. He's an Akita, German Shepherd Lab mix. Harold, the Border Collie Pit mix, has the most beautiful jet black coat. Stuart, my rat terrier, has fur now where he never had it before. DINOVITE.com. Dinovite will give them a beautiful, lustrous coat. It will make you smile.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish, in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey.
Who do you think you are?
Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute.
Whoa. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me? Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You're invited if you want to join us. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. You're still welcome to weigh in on the election results. If you want to highlight something that you think that was pretty important that we might have missed here on Free Talk Live, feel free. We got more to say about Joe Jorgensen's campaign. It's Ian and Nobody in the studio tonight. Also, want to invite you to DivvyProject.org. You've heard about Divvy for a while here on Free Talk Live. We actually started promoting them just over a year ago, and Divvy has done very well for Free Talk Live in that last year. In fact, we ended up setting up a masternode, which was super easy to do through the official Divvy client, the Divvy full node client, which you can easily download over at DivvyProject.org, DIVIProject.org. Now, if you're going to do a masternode, you need to actually have Divvy first in order to do that. And if you want to acquire Divvy, you can buy it, of course, from some exchanges, or you can just buy it directly from the Divvy team. Go to DivvyProject.org. You can connect to their Telegram channel and connect directly to the team that way, and they'll sell you Divvy, what they call over-the-counter, so that way when you make a purchase, it doesn't push up the price on the exchanges instantaneously. So that's actually probably the best way to buy some large amount of Divvy. So if you want to check it out, DivvyProject.org, DIVIProject.org. Let's go to Olivia. She's in Arizona, watching us on our DLive channel at dlive.lrn.fm. Go ahead, Olivia.
Hey guys, so my state finally legalized recreational cannabis. I'm so excited.
Yeah, congratulations. So what are the details on that? What did it pass with, like 60%? I don't have the numbers in front of me tonight.
Yeah, I think it was like 59%.
Not bad.
So that was pretty awesome.
So now Arizona has guns and drugs that are legal? That's a good thing.
Yeah, the only thing is that there were some things that I really didn't like about the law. So for one thing, there's going to be a 16% excise tax on top of the 9% sales tax. And that 16% excise tax is in large part going to go to law enforcement, which I think is, just gross. A little bit of it's going to go to like education and community colleges, but the vast majority is going to go to bureaucracy and police. So what I was thinking was, if people in Arizona can afford to stick with getting their medical marijuana card, or if they can apply, it might just be worth the $200, $150 to the.
So wait, just to clarify, the medical version of cannabis isn't subject to the excise tax?
So I was trying to read about that. I keep getting conflicting information. It looks like no, they still tax it, but it looks like there won't be the excise tax, and also there's no dosage limits on THC, which there are for recreational.
Really? What are the limits on the recreational?
I'm not really sure what the percentage of THC you're allowed for recreational.
So yeah, you definitely want to get the medical card then if recreational is restricted in some way, and if the medical is not particularly as taxed. Although that said, the taxes definitely sound like they're lower than, say, Washington or Oregon. I think one of those states, I forget which one, was doing like a 25% tax at multiple levels. So they would hit it with like a 25% tax at the wholesaler, they'd hit it at a 25% tax at the grower, and then a final 25% retail tax the retailer. So I mean, they were just walloping people with taxes there. So you're still better off compared to most of the West Coast states, what it sounds like.
Yeah, best case scenario, I think that you can grow up to 6 plants on your own.
Nice.
So maybe it's just worth it to just grow your own.
Now, when does it go into effect? Is it January 1st or was it immediately?
That's the other thing I wanted to mention. So, like, I think in California, they were supposed to immediately start expunging criminal records. That's not going to be automatic here in Arizona, so you're going to have to go
request
and file a ton of paperwork.
Yeah, it sucks. Still, though, it's still a step in the right direction.
Sure when it goes into effect.
Still happy to hear about it.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else you wanted to share about the election or your thoughts?
No, I'm just super excited.
Very cool. And I think I saw you in our Matrix chat, right? Aren't you over there too?
No, I haven't.
Okay, maybe that wasn't you.
I'm on DLive.
Oh, that's where I saw you. Okay, yeah, you were typing in DLive on another night. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Olivia, for the call tonight. Always good to get in the Matrix chat because you don't ever know how long we're going to be around on these video streaming platforms. As we discovered the other night, DLive has been forcing us into the mature category because they have a little policy.
But we're not mature. I can prove it.
Right?
In any number of ways.
Because they say that we are well, now maybe they're not doing it to us tonight. So I tried some. So what they've been doing, they did it to Vincent's channel and they did it to our channel as well. They said, oh, well, you're news, so therefore that's mature content. So anything that's political news, they say, is mature, even though we're basically apolitical
because,
here.
We'd hate to have, rational thought filter down to the young folks.
Right, and actually be browsable. So basically, if you're in the so-called mature category, essentially it means that no one can browse through like what's going on DLive and see your channel. You have to go into the options on your settings and then enable the mature, to be visible, and then you can go and browse. So it's basically impossible for somebody to find our channel if we're categorized as mature. So what I have done instead tonight, and I'm just kind of checking here to see if it has forced us into the mature category tonight, and it looks like it has forced us into that category. So yeah, we are off the radar when it comes to DLive. So actually, Twitch is listing us on their site. So we've got more exposure to the default denizens of the site on Twitch than we do on DLive now. So you never know what sort of a hair up the butt these guys are going to get with our content. So if you want to have the best chatting experience, I highly recommend the Matrix Chat server. There's no one with an axe hanging over that server. So there's no one who can pull that server. It's not going to go away. It is our server. We have control over it. So if DLive decides they want to cancel our channel tomorrow completely instead of just relegating us to, the trash bin, basically where we currently are, if they want to cancel us entirely, then all those chats on that chat window on DLive, they're going to disappear. So that's all. It's temporary.
Right.
So keep that in
Pretty
mind.
much everything on DLive and Twitch seems to be temporary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only as long as they feel like having us around, and that could be tonight, that could be a year from now, it could be a few months, so we never really know it. But either way, we do appreciate you guys being out there and watching us on those platforms, and we will utilize them as they exist. So let's talk more about Jo Jorgensen's campaign. We had her here on Free Talk Live for an interview a few months, if not several months ago. She made an appearance in a variety of different places across the country. She actually got some coverage today in USA Today, where they're writing about her and how she's managed to continue being a professor. She's a college professor, unlike these Trump and Biden's, who Biden, of course, is a politician, lifelong politician. Trump is whatever you want to call him. Quote,
Biden's
businessman.
Never had a real job.
Exactly.
And Trump, kind of has a job.
He came into money, though, right? Wasn't his daddy rich?
Trump?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
So Jorgensen, as they point out here, is from Myrtle Beach, apparently. Or no, I'm sorry, that's Spike Cohen, who is from Myrtle Beach. But I guess Jorgensen herself is also from South Carolina. They just kind of interviewed her about her opinions. She says third-party voters aren't to blame for a Republican loss. The Republicans are. She says they should be mad at those candidates for not following through on their campaign promises, she told USA Today. Jorgensen has been campaigning across the country since the summer and said many supporters have come from across party lines, mainly recovering Democrats who want troops called home from overseas missions and Republicans who are upset that Trump failed to cut the national budget deficit as he promised during the 2016 campaign.
Well, not just that, but he literally signed, and without complaint, I might add, signed the largest single budget in human history, as I understand it, for any organization.
And he also signed the big bailout, too, earlier this year.
He signed the big bailout, which, giving a little cash to the people, that doesn't bother me. Giving a lot of cash to the corporations, that bothers the hell out of me.
Yeah. So we got more about Jo Jorgensen and her kind of campaign recap here, plus your thoughts are also welcome. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. You can join us there. And this is Free Talk Live with Ian and Nobody.
Do the letters IRS give you anxiety? I'm Dan Pilla. I've defended people from the IRS for more than 40 years. My book, How to Get Tax Amnesty, created the tax resolution industry and is responsible for helping hundreds of thousands of people. It can help you too. If you're a non-filer or facing IRS enforcement right now, your case is unique. You need real help, not cookie-cutter advice. My clients get my personal attention. Buy my book at danpilla.com and get a free consultation directly with me. That's danpilla.com. Let's start solving your tax problem right now.
Do you have health or energy challenges? Would you like to support your health and energy from a product that people consistently feel the uplifting and health-building effects from the first day they consume it? I introduce you to Green Meadow Whey, the only whey protein powder from grass-pastured cows that is processed in a manner that ensures that the proteins and amino acids remain in their correct geometric shape that the body can use. The naturally occurring proteins, peptides, and amino acids in renatured whey are proven to support multiple aspects of human health, from complementing your immune system, to neutralizing chronic inflammation, to supporting detoxification, to stabilization of blood sugar, and more. Additionally, due to the Tesla-like frequencies encoded into Green Meadow Whey, it is a dramatic support for your energy and mood. And it is an excellent emergency preparedness food with well over a 5-year shelf life. To order, call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit greenmeadowway.com. greenmeadowway.com.
What if you could cut your heating bills this winter with your existing wood-burning fireplace and not spend thousands doing it? You can with Great Wall of Fire fireplace grates. Our U.S. patented made-in-America Wall of Fire grates increase fireplace efficiency, eliminate fireplace smoke problems, and come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. See our grates in action and get free shipping from walloffire.com or call 800-274-7364. Fireplace heat without fireplace smoke. walloffire.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You can take control of the airwaves here. The toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. Still doing some election recapping and thoughts here on the radio with me, Ian.
Election kneecapping?
No, that's what the other guys do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And nobody.
Indeed. So don't forget, you can join us online at freetalklive.com. I do want to say thanks to Free Talk Live amplifier named The Entire Turd. That's what he wanted to be called. So there you go. Thank you for being a Free Talk Live Platinum Amplifier. Definitely really appreciate the support. AMP is a way for you to get behind what we do here and help us get Free Talk Live on more radio stations, bringing more internet listeners on board, and bringing new people to the ideas of freedom. So if that's valuable to you, if it's worth $5 a month, then please contribute to the AMP program and get some cool benefits over at amp.freetalklive.com. One of those benefits is there is now a supporters-only chat room on the Matrix server. So we've had a few people join that this week. It's getting a little more popular, which I like to see. So that will be one of your bennies if you join the AMP program. Go to amp.freetalklive.com to do that.
We've got bennies and perks.
Like
what a weekend.
The entire turd has done. So thank you, entire turd. Go to amp.freetalklive.com. Jo Jorgensen interviewed by USA Today about her thoughts on the election. The major parties' close race this election should be a wake-up call, says Jorgensen. She says, quote, if I can get Republicans to start acting like Republicans and cutting the deficit, and if I can get Democrats to go back to being the party of peace, bringing our troops home, and giving the average individual their rights, then yes, I would be very pleased, unquote. Now, I'll quibble with the way she said that. We don't get our rights from politicians. You don't get your rights from government.
It's politicians basically, or what the Constitution does is it, singles out some of your rights and says, we won't violate these rights, but they do.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Second Amendment, it says, shall not be infringed. Well, let me count the infringements.
Yep, and they just keep on coming, whether they're the Republicans who are in charge or the Democrats in charge. And at this point, it looks like the Democrats have taken the House, or continue to hold the House of Representatives, and the Senate is still a toss-up at the moment. There are 48 Republicans and 48 Democrats, and I think there are currently 4 other seats that are not yet decided. So it's going to be a tight race in that particular case. And again, we still don't know who the president is going to be. And I hope that we can see somebody secede from the United States sooner rather than later, maybe New Hampshire, if we're lucky. I've talked with one state representative about possibly putting forward a secession ballot initiative. Now, again, there's no ballot initiatives per se here in New Hampshire, at least not that the people can do. We can't go around and collect signatures and put something on the ballot, but the state representatives can. They can pass what they call a CACR. It's something like a constitutional resolution, or I forget the exact acronym, what it stands for, but it's called a CACR, and they can put forth a question to be put onto the ballot at the next state election. So that's what I'd like to see happen. I'd like to see a pro-secession question being put on the ballot for the next election here in New Hampshire.
Oh, absolutely. That would rock.
The thing is, most of the legislators are too afraid to do principled stuff like that. So it's going to be hard to find a legislator who's willing to kind of put their neck on the line politically, so to speak. There's a lot of pushback against doing. That's why for all the Liberty reps that we have, and there's probably as many as like 24 at any given time in New Hampshire, whether they be Republicans or a few Democrats, you've never seen anyone put forward a end the war on drugs bill. That's never happened, because they'll always use the excuse of, well, I don't have the political capital for that, is what they'll say.
Well, and somewhat, I mean, to some extent that seems reasonable if we can't get things passed like legalization of weed, then it seems like it would be equally hard or even harder to get legalization of all drugs.
You shouldn't expect to be able to get that to pass.
There are two routes toward legalization of weed, which are, one is weed isn't harmful, and the other is you have a right to harm yourself. When it comes down to heroin, for example, the only argument that works is you have a right to harm yourself.
Sure. I get what you're saying, and I understand their excuses, but they're ultimately just excuses. Because if you do put something like that forward, what happens is you start a conversation. So even though you know it's not going to pass, I know it's not going to pass the first time out. Marijuana decriminalization took 10 years to actually, if not longer, more than 10 years to actually pass. It had to come back and come back and come back and come back. And then finally, it actually passed the state legislature on more than one occasion, but finally it got signed by the governor in 2017. So these things are slow going. There's no doubt about it. But there's no, from my perspective, besides harming the political capital of the state representatives, there's otherwise no harm to putting forward a quote radical bill that would actually get a conversation started. And don't forget, Oregon voters did just vote, almost 60% of them, to decriminalize possession of small amounts of drugs. So that's what I actually suggested to the couple state reps that I know who got reelected. I said, hey, why don't you guys team up with the Democrats, the drug decrim friendly Democrats, because there's a bunch of them. Team up with them, get a bipartisan decrim bill, and basically write the same bill that the voters just passed out in Oregon, where it would be not legalization, but decriminalization of all hard drugs in personal amounts. And in Oregon, starting on February 1st, it will only be a $100 fine if you get caught with personal amounts of any drugs, or you can go to a drug class.
Wow.
So it's very much like the Portugal model, which has now 20 years of success under its belt. So I don't consider that to be a radical proposal now, right? It's passed in Oregon.
I wonder if those drug classes are any good. Like, I have no idea how to do ketamine. I would like to take a class. And
my ex-girlfriend says you insufflate it.
Insufflate it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Up
Well, I
your
have no
nose.
idea what insufflate means.
It means up your nose.
I would like to take
Snort it.
Up. Did you say
up your nose?
Up your nose. Okay, good.
Insufflation.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. I've never done it personally, but I've heard it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've never done it either.
If you go too far, you're supposed to go into the K-hole, and that's not supposed to be much fun at all. But before the K-hole, it's supposed to be quite lovely.
See, once in a while, you find somebody in a K-hole at a music festival. I've seen them looking a little bit shell-shocked. But I mean, they don't seem unhappy. They're just, very slow.
Just sitting there.
Yes, yes. But
so back to the Jo Jorgensen story here. According to USA Today, about 70% of her campaign volunteers were registered Democrats or Republicans, she said. And I think it's important to keep pointing that out, and I'm glad Jo Jorgensen does this, is to point out that her support comes from both sides, as well as non-sides, right? Like people who've never voted before can also support libertarians. But there's a lot of folks who will leave the Republicans, and they'll leave the Democrats to come on board with the libertarians. It is a movement that does pull from all demographics.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always amused that righties get upset when the libertarian candidate runs a little bit more to the left.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of them this year.
The thing is, if the libertarian candidate runs a little bit more to the left, then they're more likely to pull from the left, which means that the right is more likely to win the two-party race. If Jorgensen runs more to the left and she pulls more votes from Biden than she pulls from Trump, then Trump is more likely to win. So really, if you're a libertarian just strategically and you lean left, you should really want the libertarian candidate to run to the right, and if you're a libertarian and you lean right, you should want the libertarian candidate to run to the left.
I just want good, principled libertarian candidates, and there really, sadly, aren't enough of them, which is why the movement here to New Hampshire is important, because we can actually have enough libertarians here from which to choose the better candidates instead of like where I come from, you just have a handful of libertarians and that's all you got. And they're usually pretty bad at like talking to people and being good communicators.
That's where they ran the Invictus guy, right?
Somebody did, I think at some point. And he was like a racist, wasn't he?
Yeah, something like that. He didn't sound like good people to me.
Yeah. So it's nice when you have a large pool from which to choose your candidates. So we continue here. Jo Jorgensen, the number one Jo Jorgensen state of Alaska, with 2.7% of voters voting for Jo Jorgensen.
Alaska was my second choice for the Free State Project.
It was my third choice.
Really? What was your second?
Wyoming.
Interesting.
And my first was New Hampshire.
Yeah.
The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. 2.6% voted for Jo Jorgensen in the state of South Dakota as well. So those were her top two. There's more coming up here. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. Hour 2 is next. This is Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The waiting continues. I'm Mary Corsetti, Fox News. Election day may be over, but the U.S. is still left without a clear winner as millions of mail-in ballots are still being counted in key battleground states. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden spoke in Wilmington, Delaware today about the election results so far.
Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm. The process is working.
And President Trump's campaign has filed lawsuits in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia in an effort to contest the ballot count so far in those key battleground states. But a Georgia court today dismissed the Trump campaign's lawsuit that accused the Chatham County Board of Elections of mixing ineligible ballots with valid ones.
Under the federal laws, the UOCAPA ballots that are postmarked by Tuesday can be accepted up to Friday. So of the pool of those, there are 8,899. That doesn't mean that any of them will arrive, or it means that all of them could arrive. We have no way of knowing that number.
Georgia voting system manager Gabriel Sterling. President Trump's campaign also announced they will file a lawsuit in Nevada to stop the vote count there. President Trump needs victories in all 4 of the remaining battlegrounds: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada. Meanwhile, Democrat Joe Biden believes he has the votes to win the presidential election.
After briefings in Wilmington, Delaware on the coronavirus pandemic and the economy, former Vice President Joe Biden told reporters he has no doubt he will win the presidential election after all the votes are counted.
Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well.
The Fox News Decision Desk projects Biden is at 264 electoral votes. The Trump campaign says it believes the president will win re-election if every legal vote is counted. The campaign has filed election lawsuits in key battleground states.
Fox's Jared Halpern. America is listening to Fox News.
2020 hasn't let up, but we have to keep this economy rolling. NetSuite will help your business make that happen. That's why over 21,000 companies, including Boll & Branch, makers of the world's softest sheets, choose NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Everything you need all in one place. We talked to David Reed, CFO of Boll & Branch, about how they use NetSuite.
Before NetSuite, we
we were stitched together with spreadsheets and hope. Now we have only one source of truth for our financials, HR, inventory, and supply chain. Because NetSuite is cloud-based, working from home didn't change a thing. We're still bringing affordable luxury into homes all across America. I'm now closing the books 5 to 10 times faster thanks to NetSuite.
Let NetSuite show you how they'll benefit your business with a free product tour at netsuite.com/Fox. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/Fox. netsuite.com/Fox.
Well, the Arizona Republican Chair Kelly Ward speaks to Trump supporters gathered in Phoenix today to give an update on the ballot situation there. She criticizes Maricopa County ballot recorder Adrian Fontes and claims Republican poll observers have been treated unfairly during the election process.
When the race was inappropriately called by the media, Trump was just behind by 200,000 votes. There were hundreds and thousands of votes were still out. And even still today, there are hundreds of thousands of votes. And I can tell you that it is trending in the direction of President Donald J. Trump.
This as the Fox News Decision Desk has called Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden the winner of Arizona. Also new today, as expected, there aren't any policy changes from the Federal Reserve's November meeting.
The central bank is keeping benchmark interest rates at a record low near 0 to 0.25% and vowed to use its full range of tools to help the economy during the pandemic. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell.
My colleagues on the Federal Open Market Committee and I.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
Hello, this is anchor Doyle Redland. I have just been informed that my 40-year contract with the Onion Radio News expired 2 minutes ago. A brief extension has been added to my contract to allow me to say goodbye to you, my faceless listeners. I've been reading the news out loud on the air for a very long time now, and the words to describe my feelings are difficult to find. Steve, what are you doing? This is my big moment.
I'm getting the word now that you have to leave the studio right now.
But where will I go?
Now.
Well, goodbye, everyone. I'm just coming back for my hat. No, it's my hat. I just need it and I'll go. There's no need to get pushy. Moose! Rocco, I thought we were friends.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Dial in toll free. Bring up anything you want. You can take control of the airwaves here. And we're still doing some election recap stuff. There's still some stuff worthy of talking about. I definitely wanted to discuss Joe Jorgensen and the Libertarians. By the way, I did hear, I think it was No, it was Wyoming. I think it was Wyoming. There's actually a state representative. A Libertarian won a state representative seat for the first time in decades.
Nice.
And I mean in decades for the entire country. Because Libertarian Party candidates generally will not win the elections that they're in because the mainstream media does not pay them any attention. They don't get a fair shake when it comes to being invited to debates and things like that. But in this particular case, the gentleman in Wyoming who won was in a two-way race. So he actually had a chance. And if you're a Libertarian running in a two-way race, you actually will get some news media.
What was the other candidate?
I think it was a Democrat.
Okay.
Yeah. So kudos to that guy. Unfortunately, there's not much else to say about Wyoming. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. It was the second place state in the Free State Project. I don't know if you were saying it on the air, no, but I think we might have said it off the air, but it was the state of Alaska. You were saying you had voted in second place for the Free State Project's 10 states, where they had the Free State Project, this migration of libertarians to one target state. They had 10 states from which to choose. It was back in 2002, I think, when the vote happened. Maybe it was I think it was 2003. It was 2003 when the vote happened. Wyoming ended up getting second place in that vote after New Hampshire. And New Hampshire won by a landslide compared to Wyoming, if I recall correctly. Alaska finished third in that particular election, and I don't recall where the other states were. But it was Alaska where Libertarian Jo Jorgensen actually did the best. She got 2.7% of the vote. Nationwide, however, she's got about 1.1%. So nowhere near as close as Gary Johnson did in 2016, but I don't think that's because Gary Johnson was a better candidate than Jo Jorgensen. I think that Jo Jorgensen was a fine candidate. You know, she was I think a better one than Gary Johnson, but she just didn't get any media attention at all. She did do some campaigning. She did do some, physical, real-life campaigning where she actually went places. So kudos to her for that. But the amount of total campaigning that one could do this year was severely limited. The number of venues available to do anything in was limited. And the media attention was entirely limited. I mean, it's always hard for a libertarian to get any kind of news media, and I don't remember seeing a whole lot for Jo Jorgensen. I don't know if you recall any particularly noteworthy Jo Jorgensen campaign events or mentions. I mean, no, they pretty much ignored her. Yeah. The news media is all in. Well, they're mostly in for the Democrats, but they're all in for the duopoly. Yeah, for sure. It's the duopoly that pays their bills and pays their bribes, and that's who they're going to support always. Now she gets the USA Today article after the fact. Yeah, well, once it's safe, they might say something about her. Yeah, and it is noteworthy that she is the difference between the candidates in some of these toss-up states, so she'll probably get some more coverage after the fact. And you know what? Libertarians should take the coverage wherever they can get it. I mean, ultimately, the whole point of a candidate like Jo Jorgensen is to get the word out about freedom, to do that as effectively as they possibly can. So she has, she's done an all right job of that. It says here, and that's pretty much the story from USA Today, but I also have the one from Reason, which is, of course, a pretty libertarian publication, so I wanted to get their perspective on things as well. And they write, with the most of the Electoral College map filled out the morning after Election Day, Libertarian Party presidential nominee Jo Jorgensen had already received the second highest number of votes in her party's 49-year history. That's 1.58 million and counting. Now, of course, there are more people in the country than there were 49 years ago, so it's not really fair to compare the number of votes that a candidate receives, but comparing percentages certainly makes sense. Going on, Jorgensen, a psychology lecturer at Clemson and the 1996 running mate of LP stalwart Harry Brown, is currently at 1.14% of the national vote, a tick above the party's second and third best showings, which was Ed Clark from 1980, who got 1.06%, and Gary Johnson, who received 0.99% back in 2012. With votes still being tallied and nails still being bitten in several battleground states, Jorgensen's vote total currently exceeds the margin between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden in 3 states, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and in Nevada. And actually, this was written a couple days ago, or a day and a half ago, so they didn't know that now in Pennsylvania, she's also exceeding the margin. So basically in all of the battleground states, Jo Jorgensen exceeds the margin. The 1.14% marks a steep drop-off from Gary Johnson's 3.28% back in 2016. There are several reasons for the Libertarian Party to see the glass as half full, in these results. For one, Jorgensen beat every other third-party and independent candidate in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Sorry, Kanye. The Libertarian is quintupling the Green Party nominee, Howie Hawkins' current total of 0.23%. So the Green Party fell off the radar this year in a pretty big way. If you recall, it was 2012 and 2016, both the Green Party candidate and the Libertarian Party candidate were the same. And what I mean by that is the Green Party candidate was the same in 2012 and 2016, and also the Libertarian Party. So it was, what was the Green Party gal's name? It was Gary Johnson, and then it was a female. I just don't, it's not coming to me at the moment, but so that same lady, she did not get the nomination this time. I don't know if she tried for it, but another guy named Howie Hawkins did, and he just didn't make a showing at all. In fact, we were talking about the Alaska results on our...
Stein.
Thank you, Jill Stein. Yes. That was her name. And she did pretty well. Like and what was interesting in 2016 was that she and Gary Johnson basically tripled their vote totals between 2012 and 2016. So what that told me was that 2016 was a particular year where people were really upset at the major parties' choices. They abandoned the Republicans and Democrats' choices in 2016, and they went with the Libertarians and Greens. It looks like that didn't happen so much this year, as Jorgensen was more in line with the typical Libertarian Party vote totals at around 1%. So it seemed like people felt like they needed to go back to the two big parties this year.
Yeah, I mean,
sadly.
as horrible as Joe Biden is, and, you know, the guy is a senile and a child molester, but...
looks like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have seen him putting his hands on children on film.
If you haven't seen it, go to joebiden.info. I suspect that website's still there with the video footage.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. I feel bad for those kids.
I want to go to Russ. He's on the line in Huntsville, Alabama. Russ, you're on Free Talk Live, listening to WBHP. Go ahead.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, what's on your mind?
Hey, so, I have been a libertarian since 2014-ish is when I got on board, and I did vote for Gary Johnson. But this election cycle has really been different because if you can name one or two polls in which Joe Jorgensen was included in order to get on the debate stage, I would love to hear them because I've been looking for them, and we just cannot find them. They don't exist, and it's because I think the media, who's in bed with all the lobbyists and the two major parties in the country, they were terrified of Joe Jorgensen. She had the ability to speak and deliver the answers that they just were terrified about. And so they didn't even include her on the polls, which you have to have 5% polling in order to get on the debate stage. They didn't even include her name on the polls, and that is what I hope all of your listeners would just, think about for just a moment. You're being run and ruled and railroaded by these two parties that make the
Russ,
rules.
hold that thought. If you got more to say, we'll bring it back.
Not only do I have
scratching and losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to chicken. Another vet said, eat the grain. Third vet said, it's the weather. Then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. It took 2 weeks, and the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out. The Dinovite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be. DINOVITE.com.
Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon. What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com. Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by D.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, that's 855-450-3733. Ian and...
nobody.
In studio here. Phone lines are open. You can take control of the airwaves. That's what we do. We've been talking about Jo Jorgensen, the Libertarian presidential candidate, weighing in at about 1.14% as of a day or so ago. I haven't gotten the updated numbers on that, but not quite the performance of Gary Johnson from 2016, but better than Gary Johnson's performance in 2012. Actually makes her the second best performing by percentage points and also, I think, number of votes in the party's 49-year history, so 1.58 million and counting as of the writing of this Reason.com piece. We can continue with that. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. And thanks to Intercoin, every member of a community can receive periodic airdrops of money that they can use on necessities. This UBI can be funded by outside donors or by the community democratically voting to gradually inflate their internal money supply. Community currencies powered by Intercoin enable communities to help their own without waiting for the federal government and without disincentivizing paid work. The arrangement is completely voluntary and democratic. Intercoin is attempting to regain maintain some of our freedoms that are threatened on the internet and in meat space. And we think that's important here on Free Talk Live. So we accepted $40,000 worth of Intercoin tokens from Intercoin Incorporated for advertising. If you think freedom is important too, check out Intercoin at intercoin.org. You can invest in this project and potentially make big gains, or just be involved and perhaps shape its future. Intercoin.org. We go back to Russ in Huntsville, Alabama, listening to WBHP. Russ, you're back on. Wanted to make sure you had a chance to get your thoughts out. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was saying a minute ago, the two parties in this entire election season just completely ignored and did not physically include Jo Jorgensen in the poll. So there was no way for them to know what she was polling at to include her in the debate. And I think they did that purely because they were afraid of her.
And it's nothing new. I mean, they've been that way when it comes to the third parties. They just don't even want to ask the question because, it's a terrifying thing for these old political parties to actually have to face fresh ideas. Now, it's not to say that the ideas of liberty are particularly new. They're not. But to the average voter, they will certainly appear to be something fresh. They will be something different and something worthy of consideration. And so anything they can do to keep those ideas off of the table, they're going to do that. That's why the Commission for Presidential Debates was set up by the Republicans and Democrats after Ross Perot. It made a huge impact back in 1992. They said, whoa, we can't have this happen again.
Yeah, the League of Women Voters used to run the presidential campaign.
That's right, the debates.
The debates up until that point, and they said they would not participate if it was only Democrats and Republicans allowed to participate. And so the Democrats and Republicans said, well, that's okay. We'll run a Democrat and Republican only debate, and we'll do that, under our total control, and we will make it impossible for anyone else to compete. And that's enough reason to overthrow this government right there, because all of us who are not Democrats and who are not Republicans, and, anybody who isn't a scumbag isn't a Democrat or a Republican, all of us are disenfranchised.
Well, look, nobody. The fact is you're not going to be able to overthrow the federal government. They're a humongous world power, and they've got a lot of bombs and a lot of tanks and a lot of scary people who are going to, kill you if that's what they got to do to keep their power. I think you're better off having libertarians.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Well, I'd rather have liberty rather than death.
I prefer liberty, too.
And I think that
I definitely prefer liberty, and I think that what's more important is that there needs to be an unveiling of the rules and who's setting up the rules, because if we're all going to be just herded like children, is this something that we want to participate in? And what it's going to wind up doing, hopefully in time, that unveiling will happen and people will see, oh, well, we're playing by dirty rules. We're playing a dirty game. And, it's set up for failure for the people that are like-minded or not a part of the lobbyist-centered big money swamp. And, really, it goes a little bit to what the appeal Donald Trump had in 2016 was drain that swamp.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's what libertarians have really wanted for, forever. And that is to be able to participate on a level that is more intellectual and not just a good old boys club.
Yeah. I think a lot of people did like the idea of draining the swamp, but the reality is the swamp has not been drained. Donald Trump
absolutely not.
He kept all the swamp creatures swimming around. He changed a few of them out, but he put more swamp creatures in, and it's like, it didn't make any kind of difference whatsoever.
Yeah, the one guy that he pardoned was the scumbag from Illinois who sold his Senate seat.
Oh, you're talking about Blagojevich, the governor?
Yeah.
He pardoned him. He also pardoned Roger Stone, who was one of his buddies as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I was excluding members of his campaign. You can kind of assume they're going to get pardoned.
Right. Hey, Russ, thanks for sharing your thoughts tonight, man. I definitely appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you very much, guys. I'll enjoy the show.
Thank you. And rather than a suicide mission running up against the violence of the federal government, I think there are some other opportunities here, nobody. Number one, that would be to gather liberty-minded folks in one geographic area so we can actually have a shot at freedom. Because here, the liberty-minded folks actually get attention. Here, the media cannot ignore us, and you're certainly you ran for governor this year, nobody as a
I
Republican
was pretty
candidate.
well ignored.
And they did pretty much ignore you.
They did a great job of ignoring me.
But
I've never been ignored so well.
Yeah.
as I was ignored by the media.
Sure, but they didn't ignore the people who were in the two-way races, like the libertarians running as Republicans who were up against Democrats in the state rep races, or those who were running, as Republicans against the Democrats in the Senate races. There's a handful that I think ran as Democrats as well, but those folks had some attention. Aria DiMezzo made it through the primary, so she got quite a bit of attention. So in New Hampshire, if you're a libertarian, you actually have a chance at getting some level of attention, although Darrell W. Perry certainly was ignored pretty widely in his race for governor, and he sadly only ended up with about 1.42%, which actually was slightly below his predecessor in 2018, who got 1.43%. So again, it is tough being the libertarian, which is why I have to say the approach of running as one of the two major parties seems to make more sense.
Yeah, and, maybe that's the way to deal with the two parties is to infiltrate them and destroy them, tear them down to nothing.
I totally agree. I mean, if you look at Aria, she ran as a libertarian for for sheriff 2 years ago. She got about 2%. Then she ran as a Republican for sheriff and got about 20%. So she got
that's a good thing.
10 times the vote percentage total that she did 2 years prior, just by changing her party. And she got a lot more attention, too.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I would say hers was the most successful libertarian campaign we've seen yet in the sort of the free state migration situation here over the last 2 decades. More coming up. Free Talk Live.
Every year, over 1 million fires burn in America. Fortunately, firefighters are on the job, saving life and property, and you can be a part of it. 7 out of 10 firefighters and emergency responders are volunteers. There's no typical firefighter. Anyone can volunteer to serve their community. Volunteering as a first responder is really about having the heart and drive to make a difference where it's needed most. Your community needs you. Are you ready to answer the call? Learn more and find local volunteer opportunities at makemeafirefighter.org.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Live video of our key New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. Toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. Your reflections, your thoughts on the election, they're certainly welcome, or anything that you want to discuss. The toll-free number again, 855-450-FREE. Ian and nobody in the studio tonight, and also want to invite you over to check out AnyPay. The guys from AnyPay have done amazing work at helping people in business accept cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, Bitcoin SV. You can go to anypayinc.com and learn more about what they do there. You can do Bitcoin acceptance at your real life point of sale, or if you've got an online WordPress where you have the WooCommerce plugin, you can actually get an easy-to-use plugin from AnyPay that'll allow you to instantly start accepting cryptocurrency. It is amazingly simple to install it. Just go to anypayinc.com, anypayinc.com, and AnyPay 2.0 is here, and it's easier now to accept and faster now than ever to accept crypto payments through AnyPay. If you're using Edge Wallet, Handcash, Bitcoin.com's wallet, or Dash Wallet, you already know, if you've tried it, the experience is super fast and super smooth. But some wallets are not quite ready for this impressive payments technology, and those wallet programmers need to hear from you, the wallet users. So if you use Coinomi or Exodus or RelayX or Bread Wallet, there's some others too, go to anypayinc.com/upgrade and learn why those wallets are not compatible right now with AnyPay, and they need to get fixed for that. So anypayinc.com/upgrade, there's an explanation of why that is, and then some contact information for those wallet programmers, so you as a user can reach out and ask them to add these features to their wallets, which would be great.
Yeah, I just created new wallets for copblock.app to accept donations, and I went with Edge Wallet for a couple of reasons. I liked the I want to be able to use it with AnyPay, and also I like the FiOS names, the ability that to attach a name to some
like a memorable
receive addresses. So yeah, if you go to copblock.edge, then
it's that's something I actually wanted to talk to you about, but I wanted to talk to you about it off the air because I actually tried to. It would be copblock at Edge. It's the FIO name format, and I tried putting that in and it didn't work. So I don't think you finished the process. So we'll check that.
Well, I will check that
on the break.
out then.
Yeah, we'll check that on the break, and we'll make sure it works before the end of the show tonight, so that way people can use it.
That way I won't be lying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not a lie unless you know it's a misinformation, in which case now you know, but you didn't before I told you. So we go to Dana calling from Bangor, Maine. Dana, you're on Free Talk Live, watching us on our DLive channel at dlive.lrn.fm.
Hey, I'm glad to hear you guys talking about the fraudulent nature of these selections.
Yes, sir.
You're right on the same. I'd like to remind people that honest politics is nothing more than a competition of ideas about government. That's all it is. It's your opinion, your ideas about how the government ought to be, the force, whatever you want to call it, the government, versus nobody's, versus me, versus George Bush's, versus anybody's on the planet. And all we've ever gotten, though, is the way you would find out who has the best ideas is you would have some honest, vigorous debates, and lots of them. But of course, we don't have those at all. We've got these stinking, phony, essentially their press conferences for the two corporate parties. And
it's an interesting way to put it. A press conference, almost like a competing press conference, where two sides are given time to pitch themselves, and they argue a little bit.
That they probably give them beforehand, or they're issues that are phony in the first place. None of them ever talk about the money. What I can't get over is the fact that I can't find a Republican or a Democrat who understands that our real rulers are the people who control the issuance of money. And it's truly disheartening to see so many people.
You know why that is, right? Because the people who control the issuance of money also control the Democratic and Republican parties.
Now, wait a minute. Just to clarify, Dana, are you talking about politicians? Hold on. Are you talking about politicians on the federal level or the local level? Because I know a bunch of them here in New Hampshire that understand that.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry about that. The local and the state people, the real power is at the federal level. Can we admit that? I mean, the little power.
Well, the power to drop bombs is at the federal level, but the local power is real power too. I mean, those people have control over property taxes and drug prohibition. And if we could change the local government in New Hampshire, we could push back against the federal power fairly effectively. I mean, if Aria DeMezzo, our co-host, had been elected to sheriff, she could have told the federal government to keep out of Cheshire County. And
what are you going to do about the money system? I never hear anybody talk about
that's easy.
You're not going to do anything until
I'll tell you what. I have a proposal. Nobody has a workable proposal on this. The first thing that we should do is we should print out 28 $1 trillion bills, and we should send those
coins. You'd have to do coins because it's the Treasury or whatever. They can't do bills.
Well, no, I'm talking about just printing the money, not producing something that's worth that. I'm talking about just printing the money, sending it off to our creditors, and canceling the national debt.
I'm just saying it would have to be coins because of the way the system. You'd have to mint $1 trillion.
So long as we make the coins out of bubble gum or something, that's fine. And then the next thing that we should do is we should let the world know that we're no longer going to be using dollars we're no longer going to be accepting them for payment of taxes. So if you have dollars, enjoy them. They're worthless.
Maybe we could try to make it transparent for one thing. Nobody can even. I can't find a person who can even tell me who creates our money and how they do it. I understand this, but very few people understand this. They think the government prints the money right now.
It's the Federal Reserve.
This is the one issue that nobody ever talks about. So I know this is why I figured human nature out. The things that they talk about are not important. The things that are truly important, they never talk about.
Sure.
And
they're talking about sports. Or pop culture,
about the issuance of money,
or whatever.
They never talked about the fact.
Well, we talk about it a lot here, and I'll go ahead and throw something into this discussion. So, you're sort of proposing like your ideal for the federal government, but the odds are that any of us are going to get elected to the federal government and propose anything like that pretty slim. So, what you need to do is make changes to the money system without asking for them to change theirs. And the way you can do that is by putting your value into things that you have control over, like cryptocurrency or gold back. Or some sort of gold or silver, hard money, crypto, something that is not controlled by the government, something that the government cannot affect.
How's the issuance of new money going to work?
It's already out there.
When I talk about money, I'm talking about the issuance of newly created money.
It's already out there. It happens all the time with cryptocurrencies.
The bottom line is money should not be issued by an authority.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shouldn't be centrally controlled.
Money should be something of value, like gold or silver or, even entropy, which is more or less what Bitcoin uses.
Yeah.
But
so we're gonna plunder Mother Earth in order to increase the money supply.
No, you don't need to plunder Mother Earth. Bitcoin doesn't plunder anything from Mother Earth.
You said gold and silver. I was talking about gold.
There's plenty of gold and silver out there already. And yeah, there's some inside the Earth, and some people are going to pull it out of there, and that's okay too.
No,
yeah, I mean,
it's not. That's
people will pull out.
That creates a lot of mess. I don't know if you read about the Animas River in New Mexico. Check that out.
Well, I mean, what do you want to use as money, I guess?
Well, money is nothing more than a number. That's all it's ever been. And what I want to see is a system where money is issued to people pro rata. And an egalitarian system.
Well, now that sounds like some sort of government program to me. And if you have to throw money down from on high, you've already gone wrong in that case. And I got to let you go, Dana. Your phone's kind of iffy. We were able to understand you, but it wasn't so great.
It did leave something to be. It sounded like you were gargling, bro. But
any centrally controlled solution for money is bound to be politically manipulated and bound to fail.
Yeah, and it's bound to redistribute wealth from the poor to the rich, which is what the Federal Reserve has done from the beginning. And it's what every system will do if the politicians are in control of it.
Right. The nice thing about cryptocurrency is no one is in control of that. Anyone who wants to can fork Bitcoin's code or Monero's code or whatever and start their own crypto. Whether it'll take off or not, that's up to the market to decide. More coming up.
At 58 years of age, I noticed a dramatic energy decline. After a 5-day work week, I had to use one of my days off to rest and recover. I also had cut my gym visits down from 3 times a week to once a week. Since I began using Green Meadow Whey, my energy level has greatly improved. I no longer have to take a day to recover. I have increased my gym visits back to 3 times a week. I'm actually more active and feeling better now than I have in the last 5 years. It's so nice to wake up in the morning feeling good and ready to go. Before trying Green Meadow Whey, I must have tried every whey protein product on the market, and every one of them caused me bloating, gas, and constipation. I've had no such issues with Green Meadow Whey. In fact, I'm sleeping better, my vision has improved, and surprisingly, my emotional and mental state has also improved. I love what Green Meadow Whey has done for me.
Green Meadow Whey comes from milk derived from grass-pastured cows. To order, call 888-988-3325 or visit greenmeadowwhey.com.
Stop aging now. Restore those joints. Boost your strength. Because it's official. NutriMedical has released the most exciting, powerful anti-aging supplement on the market. Dr. Bill Deagle's Red Deer Velvet DR has been approved by the U.S. Patent Office. Imagine stem cell rejuvenation all in one capsule without huge expense. Dr. Bill MD discovered that as an unborn baby grows in the mother's womb, he or she does not deteriorate or physically age. Red Deer Velvet DR, like the uterus, provides 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones protected in one special DR capsule that delivers lipid packages directly into your circulation. This patented technology bypasses the stomach and is released into the small bowel unaltered by digestive enzymes and stomach acid. Remember Red Deer Velvet DR. Improve endurance, stimulate your immune system, increase learning ability, and even improve sexual libido with Red Deer Velvet DR. Click NutriMedical.com, that's N-U-T-R-I medical.com, or call toll-free 888-212-8871 and get on the road to a newer, rejuvenated, happier you.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air, and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live. You're invited here if you want to join us. Toll-free number 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, that's 855-450-3733. With you tonight, you've got Ian.
And nobody.
And also, don't forget, you can join us online anytime you want at freetalklive.com. Lots of features are on our website, and they are completely free. So please enjoy those on us. Once again, that's freetalklive.com. And yes, you can follow us on Twitch over at twitch.lrn.fm. Also, dlive.lrn.fm. Those are our video streaming platforms on which you can watch the show live and or play it back anytime you want to. Plus, we have shows for playback on YouTube still as well at youtube.freetalklive.com. We've been talking about Jo Jorgensen. She has netted the second largest vote total in the Libertarian Party's history at, according to the polls, about 1.14% of the national vote, which wasn't quite enough to best Gary Johnson in 2016, but did do better than Gary Johnson in 2012. And, of course, in my opinion, Gary Johnson did so well in 2016 because there were a lot of people who just did not want to vote for the two major parties in that particular election. Sadly, Jo Jorgensen was basically ignored by the mainstream media. Gary Johnson got some media in 2016, but most of the time it was because he screwed things up. There was this gaffe about Aleppo, some of the silly faces that he made during certain interviews. These are the things that ended up getting him media attention, not any of the ideas that he was promoting.
And the Aleppo gaffe, such as it was, is just an example of how ludicrous the coverage has been, because really what he somebody said, what about Aleppo? And he didn't immediately connect it to the city. So what would, imagine the interplay between Gary Johnson and an advisor had he been elected. Well, what are we going to do about Aleppo? What do you mean Aleppo? Oh, Aleppo the city. Oh, well, we're not going to do anything about Aleppo the city because we don't have any jurisdiction to do anything outside the United States.
Right. If you haven't pulled out,
that's all you need to know. The people of Aleppo certainly wish, I'm quite sure, that Gary Johnson had been president, because they got the hell bombed out of them after that.
Yep.
So yeah, it was really just an indication of how chronically unfair the media is and will remain, because they are bought and paid for by the Democratic and Republican parties.
Right, which is part of the reason why, the idea that anything can ever change on the national level is just pure fantasy. The news media isn't going to allow it to happen. The government, the debates, they're designed to exclude third parties And it's not a bad idea to run a candidate just for the sake of trying to get the word out. But if you really want to have an effect, it's got to be done locally. And the problem is libertarians, there are not enough of them in any one given geographic area. Hence the reason why you and I, nobody, and thousands of other liberty-minded folks have migrated here to New Hampshire as part of the New Hampshire freedom migration, part of things like the Free State Project, of people who understand that if we are too distributed, too diluted in other places, we'll never get a foothold anywhere. And we've got a foothold here in New Hampshire. We've got liberty-minded folks who've been elected to state house positions. We've got some fairly liberty-friendly senators now at this point. And, you know, we're making some progress here. It's slow because politics tends to be slow. I mean, obviously, we all wish that it could happen faster. And if you want it to happen faster, then pick up and move to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
What other options do you have? Because staying where you are isn't working. Look around you. Look around. And what do you see? You see plenty of people, and it's here in New Hampshire, too. You see plenty of people being obedient, doing what they're told, arguing over left versus right, and no amount of libertarian campaigning over almost 50 years has had an impact on that. When I first started in libertarian politics back in the late 90s, you know, libertarian candidates were running as as third candidates in most races and getting maybe 2%. 3% would be a good turnout for a libertarian. 1 to 2% was definitely more typical, and they're not doing any better today.
Yeah.
So it's not like the message has caught fire or anything like that. It's not like there's this libertarian renaissance.
I think the message is a lot more popular, actually.
Is it? What are the results?
I think it is. Well, the results are going to be null because the other message that's out there loud and clear is that the elections are rigged and only Democrats and Republicans are permitted to participate. And so that's all of all of those people who say, oh, well, taxation with representation is all right. It's only taxation without representation that's a problem.
Taxation is never okay.
Guess what? I would agree with that, but if you're a libertarian, you are not, and you will never be represented in any way in this government. So, in
the federal government,
even yes. So even if you think that only taxation without representation is wrong, well, guess what? You've got reason to fight back because you are not represented.
So a little bit more about Jo Jorgensen and her results. As Reason.com points out, around 57% of all voters who selected neither the Democrat nor the Republican for president in both 2012 and 2016 chose the Libertarian. This year, that share will be increased to closer to 69%. So of the people who are not choosing one of the two major parties, the number of them choosing the Libertarian has gone up. Fewer people chose the Green Party as their third party choice this time around. Fewer people chose the Constitution Party. More people chose the Libertarian Party. Now, again, that doesn't mean that overall the totals were better for the Libertarians. They weren't compared to 2016. But compared to every other election in the Libertarian Party's history, this was the best year with the exception of 2016. So kudos to Jo Jorgensen and her campaign staff that, they did make something happen as best as they could in a year where basically political campaigns were neutered by the COVID crackdowns going on across the country.
Yep.
With massive leads in party registration, number of elected officials, including the freshly elected member of the Wyoming State House that we mentioned earlier, and ballot access, the Libertarian Party over the past decade has become the third party in the United States. All this with a candidate who has a significantly lower name recognition than 2008 nominee Bob Barr, the Republican congressman, or the former Republican congressman who...
Yeah, he's still a Republican.
He switched back.
Yeah.
Switched back to the GOP, as did his Las Vegas pitchman running mate Wayne Allen Root, after winning just 0.4% of the vote in 2008.
He was so hard to vote for. I did vote for him. But for me, it was just a matter of, well, I'm voting for the Libertarian Party because Bob Barr isn't going to win.
Were you still in Michigan at that time?
What year was that?
2008. I think you were.
2008. Yeah, I would have still been there.
Because you moved here in 2009, right?
I moved. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I supported. Actually, I was still in South Carolina. I think.
Okay. Because here in New Hampshire, there was actually another Libertarian Party candidate on the ballot. So you could vote for Bob Barr, or you could vote for George Phillies. So I voted for George Phillies.
Yeah, I probably would have voted for Barr just so it was included in the Libertarian Party.
Well, Phillies was on as a Libertarian as well.
But I doubt that anybody was announcing the sum of George Phillies and Bob Barr votes. So I probably would have.
Almost
I'm a data
announces
guy, so I would have put my data in the pipe where it would be counted.
Almost no one announces those things anyway. You always have to dig around just to find out who voted for the Libertarian.
Yeah.
So there you go, Joe
it's
Jorgensen.
All part of the service they offer in rigging the elections.
So if you want to add your comment here, you're welcome to do so. I thought Joe Jorgensen was a better candidate than Gary Johnson for the Libertarian Party. I think she was the right choice. And I'd like to see her, obviously I think Vermin Supreme would have been the best choice. He certainly had my endorsement before they chose Joe, but I think Joe was a fine second choice to Vermin.
Yeah, I think Joe was great. I think Vermin was great in his way as well. I think that Vermin might have been a better candidate for this election.
Totally.
Just because it's a lot easier to say vote Vermin Supreme because screw your system. That's why.
Exactly. And it'll be even better if we can get him in there coming up in 2024. So he's still got my support. And so coming up, hour number 3 is on the way. The Silk Road is back in the news, and it's not good. We'll tell you what happened coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by DJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway. Take action now. Save and support freedom. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. It's shop.freetalklive.com. Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Questions surrounding the election numbers. Fox News, I'm Mary Corsetti. President Trump holding a press conference today on the state of the election.
I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us if you count the votes that came in late.
This as a lawsuit filed by the Trump campaign continues.
We learned that the Trump campaign has launched a lawsuit claiming that the Philadelphia Board of Elections has not allowed their poll watchers inside. The lawsuit claims that Trump Republican poll watchers have been barred from coming and seeing this firsthand themselves. But that appears not to be true, because I have interviewed for 2 days now a GOP Trump activist who is a canvasser who has been inside this building. And a source tells me that right now, right as we're speaking, there are canvassers of both parties, a Democrat and a Republican, inside there right now watching the counting.
Fox's Eric Shawn. The Biden campaign is asking for patience as the Democratic presidential nominee spoke in Wilmington, Delaware today about the importance of every vote being counted.
Each ballot must be counted, and that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be.
Meanwhile, votes continue to be counted in Nevada.
A new set of voting numbers released by the Nevada Secretary of State, and they give former Vice President Joe Biden cause for optimism. He yesterday was leading President Trump by a little under 8,000 votes. He has increased that lead now to a little under 12,000. That's a 4,000 increase. What will buoy the Biden campaign even more is that it appears that the majority of votes left to come from Clark County, where Vegas is at the heart.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt. America is listening to Fox News.
If you're a business owner, you don't need us to tell you that running a business is tough, but you might be making it harder on yourself than necessary. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. It's time to upgrade to NetSuite. Stop paying for multiple systems that don't give you the information you need when you need it. Ditch the spreadsheets and all the old software you've outgrown. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Everything you need, all in one place, instantaneously. Whether you're doing 1 million or hundreds of millions in revenue, save time and money with NetSuite. Join the over 21,000 companies using NetSuite.
Let NetSuite show you how they'll benefit your business with a free product tour at netsuite.com/Fox. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/Fox. netsuite.com/Fox.
Well, posts shared thousands of times on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are falsely claiming that an impossible number of people cast ballots in Wisconsin. One tweet that went viral relied on outdated figures from 2018 to wrongly claim that the number of votes cast in the state exceeded the number of registered voters. In fact, there were roughly 3.6 million registered voters as of Sunday night, and 3.3 million votes were cast this year, according to the Associated Press. And Megan Wolf, that's the state's top elections official, addressed the social media inaccuracies Thursday, saying, quote, Wisconsin does not have more votes than registered voters. Plus, an NBA superstar is asking the public for help in the investigation into the death of a family friend.
LeBron James appealing to his hometown of Akron, Ohio on social media to help police in a murder case involving Erica Weems, the sister of LeBron's lifelong friend Brandon Weems. According to authorities, Erica was found by family members Monday with a gunshot wound to her head. Officials ruling it a homicide as they launched an investigation. LeBron pleading on social media, "My city, I need y'all to go to work and find."
In a move that puzzled patrons of the global fast food chain, McDonald's launched an extensive ad campaign this week entitled, "And Yet Is Not Beef Itself an Expression of Wanton Lust?" to air at prime time on several networks. The lengthy advertisement, which makes scant reference to any products or promotions, posits to viewers that perhaps beef is merely a symbolic expression of lust in its most wanton and depraved form.
When we call for beef, what are we really asking for? Is it the caress of a gentle lover? Or the blade of an executioner? The rage of steel on bone? Would you yourself deny beef? Would beef deny itself of you?
In other news, a spaced-out flower child is grooving on a doobie wave. A new study reveals nothing Pfizer's lawyers can't take care of, and the parents of an adorable child on a TV show are most likely insane. Thus ends nature's majestic cycle of weekly news reviews, only to gracefully begin itself anew in exactly 1 week's time.
This is the Onion News Network.
Shortly after creating a profile on OkCupid.com, local man Malcolm Lighty, a person with severe psychological and emotional issues, told reporters he thought it was best to just never mention the fact there was something seriously wrong with him on the popular dating website.
The thing about online dating is you don't want to get too personal too quickly.
Like, for example, how I'm a textbook narcissist with unresolved intimacy issues, or the fact that I have no sense of empathy. Nobody wants to hear about that. When you're making a first impression, it's important that you keep it casual and don't include too much information. You don't want to be talking about your inability to maintain a relationship because of a history of violent mood swings.
Leidy told reporters while his OkCupid profile includes extensive details about his favorite movies, love of cooking, and interest in cars, he thought he was, quote, just better off not mentioning the borderline personality disorder that makes it impossible for him to connect with another person on any kind of meaningful level.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here as we kick off the third hour of the program. You can take control of the airwaves and bring up, again, whatever's on your mind. Our number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Ian and nobody in the studio with you tonight. We've been discussing, some election-related stuff that we didn't get to last night. The numbers for Joe Jorgensen's campaign, the Libertarian for president this year, second best results in the Libertarian Party's presidential history, which isn't too shabby. And also, there was one other ballot measure, nobody, that I thought was worth talking about, and that was the much ballyhooed Proposition 22 out in California. Now, this was the Uber and Lyft law. Had you heard at all about what was going on out there?
Yeah, I heard that California was trying to put the Uber and Lyft drivers out of business there by declaring them to be employees, even though they're not.
Correct.
And so what happened with that?
So what happened was Proposition 22 was actually written by the ride-sharing companies. It was in response to a law that was passed by the state legislature that was trying to force the contractors to become employees. And so the ride-sharing companies made a ballot proposition and got it qualified by getting, 600,000 signatures or whatever to put that on the ballot. And Proposition 22 passed. So that means that California's voters, surprisingly, actually weighed in favor of the contractor status.
Wow.
In this particular case.
I wonder if they actually understood the issue.
Good question.
That's kind of amazing.
There was a lot of money that was poured in because California is a huge market, right? I mean, if Uber and Lyft and whatever the smaller ones are, if they were to be forced into this employee status for their contractors, they probably would have just left the state.
Right.
And obviously they don't want to do that, so they were willing to spend some number of millions of dollars to promote this thing. And so here's a story from CNBC. California's voters decided on Tuesday that Uber and Lyft should be exempt from the state labor law that aimed...
Oh, wow. So they left the horrible law in place and just exempted two companies from it?
No. I think it's all the ride sharers, I believe.
Okay.
It may actually be all the gig economy stuff. I'm not sure as to how wide cutting it was. But according to the story, the state labor law aimed to make their drivers employees rather than contractors. According to NBC News projections, voters made the call on Proposition 22, a ballot measure that essentially became one of Uber and Lyft's last hopes in the state to continue their operations under the status quo. The proposition would allow drivers for app-based transportation and delivery companies. So if you're a DoorDasher or Uber Eats or Postmates, then this would also affect you. To be classified as independent contractors in many circumstances. While that would disqualify them for benefits granted to employees, the measure also entitles drivers to new benefits like minimum earnings and vehicle insurance. So they did bend a little bit here on their normal set of how things work. Several gig economy apps back the measure, including Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Instacart, and Postmates, which Uber is acquiring. The support for these companies helped raise nearly $203 million to back the measure, while opponents raised less than $20 million, according to tallies compiled by Ballotpedia. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden opposed the measure. He said in a tweet in May that Californians should vote no on the initiative and said, quote, "Gig economy giants are trying to gut the law and exempt their workers. It's unacceptable," unquote.
And gigs being not jobs by definition, not only employees of those 5 companies, or not only giggers for those 5 companies, but everyone who's working a gig and not a job should not be required to act as if they have a job.
Right. They should be free to contract.
Absolutely.
Which is what they are doing. That's one of the reasons why you want to work for these companies. It's not because they're good companies necessarily. Uber kind of sucks. But
yeah, I mean, I avoid riding with Uber because they refuse to hire me due to a marijuana conviction. And if I'm too dangerous to work for them, I'm clearly too dangerous to ride for them. Ride with them.
Yeah, exactly. So while Uber and Lyft were able to raise gobs of cash from venture capitalists and have multi-billion-dollar valuations on the public market, neither has reached profitability. That makes their contractor-driver model especially important to the businesses, allowing them to avoid costly benefits associated with employment, such as unemployment insurance. But also a reason why you don't want to have an employee in that situation is because it's a lot harder to deal with. You know, employees have to have a schedule. So the employee has to know when they're starting and when they're stopping, and that means there's a lot of central control that, you know, if you're running a taxi cab company and you have employees, you've got to tell these guys when to show up, and if somebody doesn't show up...
Cab drivers are almost never employees.
That's true.
I was certainly never an employee when I was a cab driver,
Some of them will
and I
rent
would
the
have quit
cars.
if they'd tried to make me an employee.
Some of them will rent the cars. But if that was what was going to happen, then you'd have to have all kinds of scheduling problems where you've got to have somebody who can't work. Now you got to get somebody to cover the shift, or else you don't have anybody on. Whereas with the contractor situation that they've got, there's no limit technically to the amount of people who can be on the app willing to accept rides. There is a limit to the market, right? Like it can only handle so much. There are only so many rides available. But technically, anybody who's qualified, who meets their qualifications, can have their app logged in and they can receive ride requests, or in the case of Instacart or DoorDash, delivery requests. And so that means that the market sort of it allows it to automatically scale to some extent to what the market can handle, rather than having some central decider, some human resources department make decisions. So it's a sensible position to be in, but the people who support unions, they want these people to be employees. The unions are behind the measures to employeeize these contractors because they want to take over. They want to have unions for Uber drivers.
They want that money.
They want the
money.
money.
They want a piece of the rock.
Exactly. So more to the story here. The companies have warned they'd likely have to pass on increased costs of worker reclassification to consumers. Uber estimated in a blog post earlier this year that it would have to raise rider prices by 25% to 111% in parts of California to cover the cost. That's if they stayed in California. They'd have to completely change their business model and jack up the rates.
Which gives us an indication of how many jobs are destroyed by the way that employees are treated. You know, if an employee costs the employer twice as much as a contractor, which is certainly reasonable, the contractor costs exactly what you pay to that contractor. You don't have to pay anything to anybody else for your contractors.
Right. There's no Social Security takeout or any of that stuff.
So that indicates that that a lot of jobs are destroyed by the tax status of employees.
Yep. The New York Times reported in August that both companies were considering a fleet-like model similar to traditional taxis. Under that model, the companies would license their brands to operators like a franchise, according to the Times. The proposition has significant... Isn't that crazy that California is such a big market that Uber and Lyft would actually consider completely changing their business model rather than just saying, see ya, and leaving? Because that's what they did in Austin. When Austin, Texas put on new restrictions on these companies, requiring them to send their applicants to the police department for a separate background check, Uber and Lyft said, well, see ya, and they just pulled out of Austin entirely until Austin changed its tune, and then they came back. So they should have done the same thing here, but instead they were looking to change. In this case, the voters saved them from it. The proposition has significant implications for DoorDash and Instacart, both of which are reportedly preparing to go public. Like Uber and Lyft, these companies are also relying heavily on gig workers for their delivery services. Without the passage of Proposition 22, they would likely have had to worry about bigger expenses to hire workers as employees. Critics like Representative Ro Khanna in California have said there's nothing written into the current labor law stopping Uber and Lyft from providing flexibility to drivers while classifying them as employees. The companies have countered that the logistics of such a model would be untenable since it would be too difficult to track the time worked. And that also is a big reason why. You don't want to pay somebody to sit around and not take somebody somewhere.
Right.
When you're an Uber or Lyft driver, you only get paid when there is a ride.
Yeah,
That's
but when
it.
there isn't a ride, you're free to go home or go do something else.
Or sit there, play a video game or whatever. It doesn't matter. 855-450-FREE. That's the toll-free number. This is Free Talk Live. Share your thoughts.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
Every year, over 1 million fires burn in America. Fortunately, firefighters are on the job, saving life and property, and you can be a part of it. 7 out of 10 firefighters and emergency responders are volunteers. There's no typical firefighter. Anyone can volunteer to serve their community. Volunteering as a first responder is really about having the heart and drive to make a difference where it's needed most. Your community needs you. Are you ready to answer the call? Learn more and find local volunteer opportunities at makemeafirefighter.org.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions, or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Bain Books at BainBooks.com.
News from news.bitcoin.com. Bitcoin tops 13,000 and breaks its own record for consecutive days above 10,000. Satoshi Nakamoto, if alive, enters the top 200 world's wealthiest people. DC International Monetary Fund manager warns of major financial reset imminent. PayPal begins selling and accepting Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes mainstream. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Dial in, toll free, take control of the airwaves here. We're talking about the gig economy, which was under pretty heavy fire by the politicians in California, having passed a law that was trying to shove businesses like Uber, Lyft, Postmates, DoorDash, these gig economy organizations into forcing basically them to have employees instead of contractors. And that is essentially telling them that their business model is no good here. You're not welcome here. You can't be in California unless you want to do it the way we say to do it, we being the politicians in that case. But the companies pushed back because California is a huge market and they didn't want to lose it. They spent $200 million promoting Proposition 22. That got a lot of, the liberal media upset. There was a lot of propaganda pieces out there attacking Uber and Lyft. And look, there's plenty of reasons to attack Uber and Lyft. I mean, these companies are not great companies. I'm not a huge fan of them. I used to drive for Uber, and they booted me out without ever telling me why. And I know why it was. It was because some of the local haters complained about me to them. I had a 5-star rating with Uber, and so there was no reason for them to kick me out. And they didn't give me a reason, even though I asked them multiple times during the time where the 9 months where they put me on what they called the wait list. So I was still able to log into my account and look at all my statistics and everything, but I wasn't able to drive for them. And I gave them, I requested at multiple opportunities. I said, hey, you guys are obviously, you're looking into, they admitted to me that they were investigating something. And I said, well, would you like to ask me a question about it? Whatever it is that you're investigating, would you like to ask me something about it? And they said, well, if we need to, we'll talk to you about it. And they never asked me a single thing. And 9 months later, after I pinged them a few times, giving them the opportunity to talk to somebody who might know a thing or two about me, like me, they didn't bother, and they just canceled my drivership with their app. So,
wow.
Yep. So they're kind of a crappy company. But ultimately, they should be free to make choices as far as how to run their business. And as the article here at CNBC points out, they are still not profitable. So, they're just gobbling up venture capital essentially over all these years in the hopes that someday they'll actually be able to make a profit. And as one of our chatters pointed out here, to the max 4 BDE in the Matrix chat, pointing out that, they're ultimately going to get rid of drivers completely. That what they want is a completely automated car system where they don't have to deal with human drivers at all. And another problem with Uber this year is that they mandated that all their drivers have to wear masks. And in point of fact, if one of their customers snitches on a driver for not wearing a mask, they will be canceled, likely. Or I'm sorry, what they're doing is they're also forcing them to prove they're wearing a mask. So when they log in, they have to take a photograph of themselves wearing a mask to show the app that they have a mask on.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty terrible. So again, I'm no big fan of these companies, but they have a right to do things the way they want to do it. If people think that Uber and Lyft is a bad gig, then they should stop working for them and go start their own company.
Absolutely.
Nothing is stopping them. There are things stopping them. The government has regulations in place. You can't just start a cab company.
No, not anymore.
No, not for a long time.
Yeah. It's it's always the government keeping us poor.
Yep.
They're the only ones who have enough guns to do it.
That's right. Because without them pointing guns at you, you could just go put a magnetic, sign on your car and start handing out business cards at bars during closing time, and get some business.
Yeah, the cab companies would whine, but they
too bad.
Without the government to do the dirty work for them, they couldn't stop me.
So let me continue here from CNBC. Let's see. Companies have countered that the logistics of the employee model that the government wanted to force on them would be untenable, since it would be too difficult to track the time worked. Companies faced a setback in August when a trial judge granted a preliminary injunction forcing them to reclassify their drivers as employees, although that ruling has yet to go into effect as the case makes its way through the legal process. That lawsuit's fate is now unclear since the ballot measure has passed. Bay Area rideshare driver Jimmy Strano said in a statement shared by Yes on 22, quote, "In a historic election, California drivers sent a clear message that we want to be independent, and what's best for us is a new approach that preserves our independence while providing new benefits." A Lyft spokesperson deferred to the statements from Yes on 22. Representatives from Uber and the California Attorney General's office did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So there's your update on Proposition 22. It's a little bit of good news, but they did, again, they bent a little bit, allowing what they call minimum earnings and vehicle insurance, so new benefits to their drivers. What that exactly means to the drivers, I'm not real sure. I presume it's some sort of a minimum based on the number of trips taken or the distance of those trips taken, because obviously, you know, the whole point is to avoid paying drivers for just sitting there.
Yeah, and, you know, if it turns out that they're forced to pay drivers for hours logged in, then it's really easy for drivers to just log in.
To fool that, yeah.
Not be there and not get paid for nothing.
Right, and that's what the lazy drivers want.
Yeah.
So that's where all this has come from. There's the sort of the lazy, let's call them union drivers who, you know, they would love to get paid to sit around the house and then take the occasional ride. But that's not a tenable business model for these companies. And so that's what, you know, led to all this. Now, they're not going to stop with this. They're going to, I'm sure, continue their assault on these companies and on the ride sharing and the gig sharing economy. But this was, in the case of the voters of California, a surprise. I have to say, I didn't think that they would do it.
Yeah.
But they did. So kudos.
Well, that's good. Fighting back against the government overreach is always good, especially in the least likely of places.
So here's a story I didn't expect to see, nobody, and that is the latest on the Silk Road. Remember them?
Oh yeah. I mean, I always remember Ross.
Yeah, Ross Ulbricht sitting in prison right now for 2 life sentences plus 40 years. This isn't about Ross, per se. It's about the money. Mm-hmm. It's about the Bitcoins. Apparently, I don't know how they did it, and they're not saying they're not giving all the details yet, but the federal government has managed to acquire about $1 billion worth of Bitcoin from the Silk Road. And here we are 7 years now since they arrested Ross in October of 2013. Almost a decade since the creation of the Silk Road. It was 2011 when the Silk Road was created.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, for listeners who are unfamiliar, it was a really important thing. And the Silk Road, I think there was an interesting point that Ross's mother made at one of the speeches I saw her give. I think it was at a Bitcoin conference, when I saw her explaining that somebody told her that Ross Ulbricht is probably second to Satoshi Nakamoto, him or herself, as far as importance to the success of Bitcoin. What do you think about that?
Quite possibly. I mean, without something to spend Bitcoin on, it would have been hard to explain what it was good for.
Exactly. He created the killer app for Bitcoin, which was the Silk Road, early in Bitcoin's existence. Before the Silk Road, Bitcoin was just a digital trinket. It was just a thing traded amongst programmers. But then you could trade it for drugs, and that changed everything. More coming up.
News from news.bitcoin.com. Bitcoin tops 13,000 and breaks its own record for consecutive days above 10,000. Satoshi Nakamoto, if alive, enters the top 200 world's wealthiest people. DC International Monetary Fund manager warns of major financial reset imminent. PayPal begins selling and accepting Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes mainstream. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, and all the latest cryptocurrency news news at news.bitcoin.com. Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway. Take action now. Save and support freedom. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. It's shop.freetalklive.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. You can also sign up for the Free Talk Live emails that I send on occasion to keep you in the loop with what's going on with Free Talk Live. You can go to freetalklive.com. You'll find the email sign-up box there on pretty much every page at the site on down towards the bottom of the page. So check that out at freetalklive.com. With you tonight, you've got Ian.
And nobody.
We are talking about the Silk Road. It's back in the news. The arguably most important development in the Bitcoin life cycle. Yeah, Bitcoin came out in 2009, but it wasn't really until 2011 with the launch of the Silk Road until Bitcoin really became useful, where you could then use Bitcoin to purchase all manner of illegal drugs on the so-called dark web via the Silk Road. It lasted for a couple years until they took Ross Ulbricht down, sadly, in a raid that actually took place at a San Francisco library where they arrested him while he was logged into the site managed to get him before he could close his laptop, and they got access. They'd actually already had access to the back end of the site. They'd busted one of the co-administrators of the site without the knowledge of Ross previously and replaced him with a federal agent. So they actually already had back-end access to the site. So it's actually a really interesting and fascinating story. It's a tragic one because Ross is a young gentleman who has never harmed another person. He actually, I would argue, stopped people from being harmed because Silk Road was, in addition to an amazing technology, also great for harm reduction because it resulted in people being able to buy illegal drugs without having to go through the usual black market channels of meeting somebody in a dark alley or a parking lot or some crack den or whatever in order to purchase their product. It allowed the purchase, the sale of drugs without actually having the two parties physically knowing who they were. It was an amazing safety measure, ultimately.
Yeah, and I know people who get their ADD meds over the dark web, and they get them at a much better price than they would pay if they had to pay a doctor every month to tell them, hey, guess what? You need Adderall. You know? It's like, yeah, I've needed Adderall for 15 years, but I have to pay you every month to tell me again.
Right. And so we could go down the list of reasons why the Silk Road was a tremendous innovation, tremendous benefit and boon to society. It saved people's lives. There are people alive today who would have died because they might have bought drugs that were impure on the black market. They might have purchased drugs that were of a higher purity than they were used to, and that could have killed them. If you're used to a certain level of purity of heroin, and then all of a sudden there's one that's like 10 times stronger, and you don't know that in the black market, you don't know what you're getting when you're buying from some dealer in town or whatever. And there are people who've died from that sort of thing. Well,
yeah, and it brings in some level of accountability, at least.
That's right, because of competition.
Yeah, with competition and because you can review sellers.
Exactly. So let me get to the story, though. Here's why it's back in the news. Ars Technica reporting at arstechnica.com. On Wednesday, they reported someone had transferred close to $1 billion worth of Bitcoin out of a wallet associated with Silk Road. Now we know who that mystery party is. The U.S. Department of Justice, which in 2013 shut down Silk Road and went to put its founder, Ross Ulbricht, behind bars for life. Quote, the successful prosecution of Silk Road's founder in 2015 left open a billion-dollar question. Where did the money go? Said U.S. Attorney David Anderson in a news release. Continuing his quote, he said, today's forfeiture complaint answers this open question, at least in part. $1 billion worth of these criminal proceeds are now in the United States' possession, sadly. Silk Road and Ulbricht were among the most popular and successful online crime figures in internet history, hosted on the anonymous dark web, the quote anonymous dark web. They somehow de-anonymized the Silk Road and other darknet websites, and we've still yet to figure out how they've figured how to do that. The service brought together sellers and buyers of drugs, fake IDs, and just about any other kind of illicit good or service imaginable. That's not true. Silk Road did not sell specific categories of things. They would not sell poison, and they would not sell child pornography. So those things were not allowed there. There were thousands of dealers and well over 100,000 buyers, U.S. attorneys wrote in a civil complaint filed on Thursday. The document said the Silk Road generated revenue of over 9.5 million Bitcoin and collected commissions from these sales of more than 600,000 Bitcoin.
Wow.
So if you do the math at currently... there's about 15,000. Actually, it's getting closer to 16,000, but we'll just go and call it $15,000 per Bitcoin. I mean, you're talking about $9 billion worth of Bitcoin in net revenue there.
Wow.
Thursday's complaint came 5 years after Ulbricht was convicted and sentenced to 2 life terms plus 40 years. The IRS criminal investigation arm assisted in tracking down the intricate scheme to obfuscate the recipients of the proceeds. The seizure came 2 days after blockchain analysts noted someone had transferred 69,369 Bitcoin, worth around $975 million out of an account that had received them from the Silk Road. The wallet, which remained quiet since 2015, was the world's 4th biggest wallet
Wow.
It's amazing. In intriguing details that sound like they're straight out of a crime novel, the complaint said that a mysterious hacker identified only as Individual X was responsible for transferring the seized Bitcoin out of the Silk Road coffers. Quote, according to the investigation, Individual X was able to hack into the Silk Road and gain unauthorized and illegal access to the Silk Road and thereby steal the illicit cryptocurrency from Silk Road and move it into wallets that Individual X controlled. According to the investigation, Ulbricht became aware of Individual X's online identity and threatened him for return of the cryptocurrency to Ulbricht, unquote. The unknown hacker didn't return or spend the Bitcoin. Instead, Individual X on Tuesday signed a consent and agreement to forfeiture with the U.S. Attorney's Office in San Francisco, agreeing to turn over the funds to the government. So what is not answered here is how they identified Individual X and what they did to him to get him to hand over the money.
Well, Individual X, that sounds like he's being protected by the government. Maybe he was one of their FBI snoops, because they had a couple of FBI guys
that were trying to
the Silk Road who were stealing from the Silk Road.
That's true. They went to prison, those guys.
So they say.
Well, that's the claim.
Yeah, hopefully they really did, because unlike Ross, they belong there.
The complaint details the lengths Ulbricht took to obfuscate the transfer of the funds and the forensics expertise that finally unraveled the true origins of the Bitcoin. An excerpt here says the Silk Road used a so-called tumbler to process Bitcoin transactions in a manner designed to frustrate the tracking of individual transactions through the blockchain. According to Silk Road's webpage, Silk Road's tumbler, quote, send all payments through a complex semi-random series of dummy transactions, making it nearly impossible to link your payment with any coins leaving the site. In other words, if a buyer makes a payment on the Silk Road, the tumbler obscures any link between the buyer's Bitcoin address and the vendor's Bitcoin address where the Bitcoins end up, making it fruitless to use the blockchain to follow the money trail involved in the transaction, even if the buyer's and vendor's Bitcoin addresses are both known. The only function served by Silk Road's implementation of such tumblers is to assist with the laundering of criminal proceeds, unquote. Earlier this year, federal authorities used a third-party Bitcoin attribution company to analyze transactions executed by Silk Road. They zeroed in on 54 of those transactions that transferred over 70,000 Bitcoin between two particular wallets. And the Bitcoin was valued at about $354,000 in 2013, and now it's worth like $9 billion. Wow. 2 years later, the third wallet, or I guess, no, not $9 billion, but quite a few, $1 billion. This third wallet sent 101 Bitcoin at the time to BTCE, an unlicensed cryptocurrency exchange whose founder was arrested in 2017 on allegations he committed $4 billion worth of Bitcoin laundering. The Bitcoin remained stayed in the wallet until this week's seizure. Blockchain analyst firm Chainalysis, which assisted in the investigation, shame on them, provided additional details along with a graphic showing the account flow.
Wow.
So they got the money, a lot of it at least, from the Silk Road.
It would be nice if there was a way to blacklist those coins so they could never be spent on the blockchain again, basically causing the stolen money to turn to dust in the hands of the thief.
Or to lose value, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live.
When you have a pain in the neck, a real pain in the neck, back, shoulder, or legs, you now have two convenient choices to get fast relief without taking another pill. Because now, Sunny Bay heating wraps and pillows are available at both Amazon and Walmart. Yes, see Sunny Bay's 4.5 to 5-star customer reviews on Amazon.com or Walmart.com. Our made in the USA microwavable heat wraps, heatable neck pillows, and extra large body wraps are designed better for perfect support where and when you need it. Even while driving, Sunny Bay wraps will not burn and stay balanced to provide soothing hot or cold therapy to help treat temporary or chronic pain. And the best part? Sunny Bay quality products start at under $20. Join thousands of happy customers and see why Sunny Bay products have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy. It's easy. Click Amazon or Walmart and search today for Sunny Bay.
Attention business owners body slammed by overwhelming debt. If your business is in trouble, hassled by creditors, if you're frustrated, finally fed up with big business bailouts while your business has been left for dead, Please listen close. There's a brand new fast-track bankruptcy. Some have even called it the biggest small business bailout in American history. Designed for individuals and their businesses. And look, almost no one knows about this yet. My attorney wasn't even aware of it. The truth is, beating the system has never been easy because it's rigged in a sense against the little guy. But here's the jaw-dropping news nobody's talking about. They've literally just changed the system so that you can beat it, but only if you understand how the new game has to be played. Find out if you qualify at pocketsoflight.com. This government-backed small business repair program is still legal, but may not be renewed after the election. Fight back fairly, fight back ethically at pocketsoflight.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything that you want. Our number here, 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
And Free Talk Live brought to you by Cell 411 and the new copblock.app, which is something you've been working on behind the scenes, nobody.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be coding again. I really enjoy writing code.
Yeah, and you're pretty excited about this project. You've talked about it on Nobody Tells the Truth over the past 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Just kind of getting your listeners on your show, Nobody Tells the Truth, which happens, by the way, Friday nights. Are you doing it tomorrow night?
Yeah, I do it every Friday.
10:30 Eastern Time. It's on DLive and Twitch, our video streaming channel. So it's exclusive to those video platforms.
And we also push the videos of it if you want to catch it when it's not live. Mm-hmm. We also push that across to the LRN or the Free Talk Live radio channel.
Have you been doing that consistently? Because I haven't.
I have been doing it when I noticed.
Okay.
But yeah, that's something we should be sure to do consistently.
So check out that show tomorrow night. It'll be live at that time. But one of the things we've been talking about, in I would say great detail, has been your new project with Cell 411, which you're planning to sort of do additional branding as copblock.app. So bringing back, essentially raising from the dead, basically, this wonderful activist not really a website. The website still exists. Copblock.org is the old site. It's under new management, and basically what happened was Ademo Freeman, who was a former co-host here on Free Talk Live and the founder of Copblock, he retired and walked away from Copblock, I don't know, 2017 or 2016, or I think it was probably 2017, 2018. And he walked away from it, and it's a big, he had big shoes to fill, and he, offered
he had big feet.
Yeah, he offered the opportunity to the other Copblock bloggers to step in and take over, but none of them really wanted that level of responsibility, and so it sort of languished, and he just decided to put the domain up for auction. And somebody paid $1,200, I think it was, and got their hands on the domain. The guy who bought it didn't even know what Copblock was. He just thought it was a cool sounding name. And thankfully, he didn't take the site down. I think he had hoped that he could make some money off of it, but it's activism. It's hard to make money on activism. The old Copblock site, I talked to Ademo before he took it down and kind of got a rundown from him. There was a little bit of revenue coming in from some like Google ads or whatever on the site, a few advertisers, but ultimately it barely even covered the costs of running the website. So there was no money being made by Copblock. And so the new owner certainly isn't making any money off of it because there's even less content now than there's ever been. I will post occasionally to the site. I still have blogging access to the site. I used to be an admin, but I was de-admined when the new guy took over. So I can't even like update the website in any meaningful way besides like just putting new content there. So it's basically a shell of its former self. The organization itself has essentially been dissolved. There's maybe a few active Copblock groups still around the country. I think Nevada Copblock still does some stuff. I met with a couple of those guys last summer when I was at the Freedom Fest, so they're still doing some stuff out in the streets. We're still doing stuff here in Keene on occasion as well, and in fact, that's where all the content comes from for Copblock.org these days. But you had a vision, nobody, about the Cell 411 app, which is also sort of a really cool activist thing that was let languish over the last year when sadly Virgil Viduva, the creator of the app, sadly ended up going through a divorce, and it kind of really took his attention away from doing Cell 411. And for listeners that don't know, Cell 411 is it's an app. You can still download it. It still exists. It's got some bugs that we're working on, but it is a emergency alerts application that allows you to set a group up called a cell, which might include your family members or might include your friends or your neighbors or something like that.
Or your local neighborhood watch.
Exactly. And you can let them know when something is happening to you. Maybe it's the police, they're harassing you. Maybe the house caught on fire. Maybe your grandmother's having a heart attack. Something like that. Some sort of bad thing happening. You can send out an instant alert that sends to your group of friends or whoever, and that way they can respond. Instead of like the police responding and possibly shooting you or your dog, your friends can respond to an emergency situation. It's a great idea for an app, and it worked very well. It's languished for the last year, and when you let a program like that languish, things break due to various different things happening.
Programmers call it bit rot.
Yeah.
And so and it was heavily used by cop blockers because
that's right.
And so the vision that I've got is basically let every user of the app be a cop blocker, at least to the extent of when you see the police harassing somebody, start filming it and film it through the app. And if there are local cop block people, people who actually go out to block cops, let them hear that and let them respond to that. And because the problem with cop blocking is always finding them,
Right.
If they're walking around downtown, you can find the cops, but if they're just pulling somebody over in some obscure place like they did, for example, before they killed Sandra Bland, then it's it's harder to catch up with them. So this gives anybody who sees them an opportunity to let people know that the cops are harassing somebody here and they need to be watched. They need to be put in check.
So what happened was the app, as I said, had languished. And I was unable to get in touch with Virgil for months. I tried to let him know because it had actually been pulled down from the Google App Store or the Google Play Store as of December of 2019 is when I first noticed. And I tried to get in touch with him, and he wasn't responding. I didn't know about the divorce this time. I thought maybe he was in the hospital or something. I didn't know what had happened.
Yeah.
And so finally, several months later, I think it was probably like 5 months later, finally in like April or May or something like that, I was able to reach him. He told me what had happened and that he's, been in disarray basically because of the situation happening in his life. And
general disarray.
Yeah. So I said, what can I do to help? Because I don't want to see this app die. It's a really useful app, probably the most useful activist app I've seen in my lifetime. So I didn't want to see it die, and he said he wanted out. And I said, well, one of the things that has always been the big complaint about the old Cell 411 app is that some people really wanted to see the code, you know? That it was always a closed source project for Virgil. And, it's his project. He's the one who poured money into it, so it's his choice, right? Like, he gets to make that decision. But he said he wanted out, and I said, all right, well, you know what? Shire Free Church is interested in taking it over. We're interested in saving this thing. But one of the things I want to do with it is I want to open source this app. And so we bought it. Shire Free Church bought the rights and the website and the code and all that, and you stepped up and you said this is something that's exciting to you and interesting to you, and you wanted to head this project up. So I said, all right, here you go. And you've been cracking on this, man, day in, day out. You've been digging through the code. You've been talking to the original programmers, a couple Indian guys that Virgil had hired to do this. And I think a lot of people have been pretty impressed with how you've been handling this, and that you've really taken this very seriously. And have done what I consider to be a good job so far. Now, we haven't done a new version yet. You're still learning the guts and finding out where things are wrong and trying to get some things fixed right now.
I've got one more major issue that I want to take care of before I do a release, which is we're having problems with some people getting notifications.
Or rather not.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, without notifications, the system doesn't work.
Right.
So that's the next thing is get notifications out there.
Yeah. So that's what I want to do. Want to fix the major glaring issue, that one in particular. Get and there's some other technicals behind the scenes, like some old version stuff that needs to get buttoned up, and for lack of a better technical term, and then get this new version out hopefully in time for Christmas. I don't think that's too unreasonable to say. Maybe you could squash that one by Christmas time. I'm hoping a little Christmas holiday gift.
I'm hoping to have it done in a week.
Thanksgiving would be great too. It might be it'll be a good holiday season, I think, here if we can get Cell 411 back up and back in action. But right now you can visit copblock.app, and you've put up a basic website there. We're
just a placeholder mostly.
We're going to be putting up some contribution options there. You've registered an Edge wallet, and there's now a FIO name, which we don't have time to discuss, but we're going to have you put all that info up on the website for people.
But if you know what a FIO name is, it's copblock.edge. At Edge.
Copblock
I have to
Edge.
stop saying dot.
Yeah, so get that info up on the website. We'll talk further about it as time goes on here and let you know how things are developing. I'm excited about it. I think you will be too, because we've got some other plans too, like decentralizing the app down the road, making it less dependent on third parties. We got some good plans. We'll see you tomorrow. freetalklive.com.
Peace.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally